I remember right after getting elected to Congress, driving up Capitol Hill and looking at the dome at night. And we have John Thune, a good friend from Congress. Great to see you, John.
With you, Joe.
And I remember seeing the Capitol dome and just how breathtaking it was. And all these years later, as cynical as I've become about Washington in many ways, every time I drive up and I see that lighted dome at night, it still takes my breath away. Fenway's the same for you. Is this your first time here?
It is. I've been to Dodger Stadium. I was in Old Yankee Stadium, but I've never had the chance to come here to Fenway. So when I heard you guys were coming to Fenway today, Joe, I was like, I got to get on the show, man. So
that's smart.
It's awesome.
Listen,
it is. It's so historic.
You pulled some strings.
Well, you know, I remember I was a 14-year-old kid in '75, and I remember watching that series between the Reds and the Red Sox, and the Carlton Fisk blast over the big green monster, and Fred Lynn. That was such a great team. Yastrzemski, and you know, there's so much about this ballpark and about this hair. And Jim Rice was a great player. That was just an awesome team. In fact, that was such a good team. You hated to see them go through their careers without winning a title, but it was nice to see them eventually in 2004 get it done.
We talked to Scott Brown off camera. We were just walking around the field, and he said, you know, the thing I love about John Thune is he's conservative, but he's not an ideologue. And John's one of those guys, Saxby Chambliss is another, where there are a group of us that can work with Democrats, can sit down and talk to moderate Democrats and still try to get things done in the Senate. The Senate, this is the least productive Senate in 20 years. It is. Historically, it is. But there are still senators on both sides working hard to try to get things done.
Right. Yeah, and I think this is an election year, and so, as you know, it's a very polarized atmosphere right now. But when this is all said and done, we're going to have to figure out a way to come together because the problems are too big. And I think there are good people on both sides of the aisle who recognize that. And I hope for the good of the country.
Well, you have to come together because in the lame duck session, there's about 5 different cataclysmic things that are going to happen at once.
That's right.
Bush tax cuts, the sequesters, the debt ceiling's going to have to be raised. I mean, how does any one of those alone get done in an atmosphere like this?
You know, those are all huge issues, Sam, and they do. The train wreck all hits at the same time.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah, that's fun for you guys. This will be great fodder. But, you know, I think in a lot of ways, part of it will be shaped, too, by what happens in the election. I mean, there are several different scenarios. Do you get a second Obama term? Do you have a Republican Congress? Does the Senate stay Democrat? Does Romney win? I mean, all these different permutations of what could happen in that election, I think, are going to shape how that debate plays out with regard to taxes and spending. But one thing is clear. We've got to deal with the issue of entitlement spending. We've got to deal with the issue of tax reform. And I think both sides agree with that. The question is going to be the details.
Well, just a quick follow-up. You know, Ken Conrad is now taking the step where he's going to basically introduce what is sort of a variation, but very similar to this Bowles-Simpson proposal.
Yeah, right.
And it's not getting the type of reception that you would think, considering all the nice things that have been said about the Bowles-Simpson proposal.
By both sides.
By both sides,
So what gives? I mean, why can this proposal that everyone says is sort of the common sense middle ground for both parties, why all of a sudden is no one willing to touch it with a 10-foot pole?
I think part of it is timing, and I also think, too, that it's going to take, on an issue like this, it's going to take presidential leadership. You're going to have a president that's really leaning in, and I think there are people in Congress on both sides who will work with them. And Bowles-Simpson's a couple years old, so, you know, the baseline's changed a little bit, but the particulars of it, there was a lot of support for on both sides, and I think there are, you know, you get into the fine points and the details, and obviously we would love to have an opportunity to amend it, improve it, make it stronger, but there was a good body of work there that I think we can use as a foundation.
What do you think about Mitt Romney and his ability to lean in and get things done? And do you have conviction about him as looks like the nominee?
I do on the fundamental issue I think most Americans care about, Mika, and that's the economy and jobs. I mean, I think now...
Why is that?
Well, I just think it's the experience. I think having a conservative businessman coming in at a time when the country is looking for that kind of leadership is really important. And I think the president, to be fair, inherited a bad economy, but his policies, since he's been in office, have made it worse. And I think most people recognize that their economic state has not improved in the last few years.
But he's a conservative businessman who passed health care reform in his state.
Well, and he did things at the state level because he thinks that's where things ought to happen. And I think he's made it very clear that if elected president, he would work to repeal the health care law.
So John Thune, we've allowed you to come to Fenway Park on the 100th anniversary of this cathedral to baseball. If Mitt Romney picks you as vice president, will you let us come backstage and hang out with you before you give your speech at the convention?
Absolutely.
Okay. on camera right here.
Because I know that's not going to happen.
Are you still working out? Remember when he broke the chair?
Oh, he did.
Oh,
he did.
It
With
was
his
like
bare
he was like
hand.
the Incredible Hulk.
He was like his bare
He sat down.
We were
and broke
sitting in the chair in his office, and he went like this. He was talking, and he just went.
broke. It's like, oh,
And the chair
excuse me.
broke.
I told these guys that was all staged for them.
Yeah.
I was
It's
very
designed to
impressed.
make senators feel powerful.
Yeah, exactly.
It
So
was
well.
very powerful.
All right, well, let's go to Willie Geist right
Where
now.
is
Thank you.
Willie?
It's always great
Again,
to
he
see you,
keeps
Senator.
sneaking off.